Hey, what's your secret?
So my secret is that I recently moved to the Bay Area and I decided to Uber to the grocery store to get dinner because I was pretty hungry. I was hungry and tired. And so I got to the grocery store
my
and I
secret
didn't really
is
feel
that
like
I
anything
recently moved to the Bay
conventional.
Area.
So my secret is that I recently moved to the Bay
I Ubered
Area
all the way
and
back
I decided
home,
to Uber to the grocery store to get
and
dinner because I was
I
pretty
opened
hungry.
the ice
I was hungry
cream
and
almost
tired.
right away,
And so
and was
I got
shocked
to the
to
grocery
find
store
that the
and I
safety
didn't really
lid
feel like
was
anything conventional.
pretty
So I
much
ended up
already
getting
open.
ice
It was
herpes,
half
I could
open.
get
I
HIV.
Ubered all the way
weird
back
to be
home.
I don't know what's in this ice cream.
And
I was so
I opened the ice
irritated
cream almost right
and
away,
tired
and was
and
shocked to
hungry.
find that the safety
So I
lid
decided to
was
eat the ice
pretty
cream
much already
anyway,
open.
and
It
it
was
caused me so
half
much
open,
stress
even though it
because
appeared to be
everything was
closed
going
at
through
first
my mind.
glance.
When I was halfway through the ice cream, I kind of thought
irritated
and
and
herpes,
tired
I
and
could get
hungry.
HIV. I don't know.
So I
decided
decided to eat the ice
and I didn't really feel like anything conventional, so I ended up getting
because
get it from ice
everything was
cream.
going through
When
my
I was
mind. I
halfway
was
through the
like,
ice
you know,
cream,
I could get
thought,
COVID.
why didn't I just scoop
that
off
would have
the
saved me from
top
so
layer?
much.
I could get I don't know.
But by the time I had gotten,
luckily
through
for
the ice
me,
cream,
I already
I
have
noticed
herpes,
the
so I couldn't
top
really just
left
get it
Luckily
for
for me,
me,
I already
but
have
when I was
herpes, so I couldn't really just get
irritated. It was
why didn't I just
itchy,
scoop off
and
the
I was
top layer?
freaking
That
out,
would have
and
saved
I was
me from
hoping
so
this was
much.
just a placebo effect.
But by the time I had
I
gotten,
really felt
halfway
something.
through the
And
ice
then I go in the
cream,
mirror.
I noticed,
You know, it looks
top
normal, but when
left
you
corner
really,
of
really
my
looked
lip
close,
was
it was
burning.
just
It was freaking out,
and I was hoping this was just a placebo
freaking
effect.
out.
But
And I was hoping
you know, I really felt something. And then I go in the mirror, and then I go in. You know, it looks normal, but when you really, really looked close, it was all worth it in my opinion. Redder than
ice cream.
I wouldn't do it again. And when I was halfway through the ice cream, I kind of thought, and so I finished. Why didn't I just even the next day? My top right corner of my lip was a little irritated. Everything was going through my mind. I was hoping this was just a placebo effect, but you know, I really felt something. And then I go in the mirror, Uber to the grocery store. You know, me from so much.
It's Ben.
Hi.
Did you say you
But
were
by the time I had
not working
gotten
today?
like half.
No, I'm not working at all anymore. I've actually officially been laid off as of Monday.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
You know, I don't actually mind. I mean, the irony is that all of this stuff we're about to talk about really prepared me for this.
Oh, so there's a silver lining.
For sure.
All right.
We were cleaners, is what I would call it.
Today, Leah joins me with a secret about a man she partnered with
He had powers that I didn't understand.
and the lucrative business they built together. I take it from your answer that you're making a lot of money doing this.
Yeah, copious amounts of money.
She tells me what drove them to do it.
It was just never about the money. It was really about this purpose of helping, you know, as silly as I guess it sounds, like helping the world.
And how their business wasn't legal.
I'm gonna put you in this house. I'm gonna sit you in there. You're gonna be my duck. You're gonna take care of everything. And at the end of the day, I'll give you 10 grand.
Right. They had to deal with some nefarious individuals.
There was a lot of people around that were cutthroat.
And you will not see the climax coming, even though Leah had a premonition.
I have no idea how to tell you this, but I knew. I just knew.
Stay with me for Leah's first-hand account.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I was partners with the mastermind of a thriving drug operation for over a decade. No one knows the high-stakes game we played and how it all came crashing down.
This is The Secret Room, a podcast about the stories no one ever tells. I'm Ben Ham. This is an amazing story. So excited.
Thanks.
Okay, we are going to get started. All right. All set?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Hi, Leah. Welcome to The Secret Room.
Hi, Ben.
Hey. I'm so glad that you have joined us today with what sounds like an amazing secret.
Well, thanks for having me.
Let's just roll way back, to before the secret happened. That was 1999, right?
Mm-hmm.
You met a guy.
Hmm.
How old were you when you met this guy?
I had just turned 21 years old.
What was his name?
Aaron.
Where'd you guys bump into each other?
I had just moved from one town to another, and I had met a friend through a friend, and I was really bored. and that friend was having a party. So I begged if I could come over, and I went, and I walked in and immediately saw Aaron, and we locked eyes and immediately started talking and basically never stopped.
Instant attraction.
Absolutely.
But at that moment, you had no way of knowing how he was going to impact your life.
None.
In a very substantial way.
Yes.
So tell me about him and about the early days of your romance.
It was, I pause because I want to say that he was like my Prince Charming. The minute I saw him, I just knew I wanted to know everything about him. We started talking at that party, and what I did notice was that all of his friends whom I didn't know anyone, they all kept looking at us really strange. And I didn't understand until sometime later. He was sitting there sharing like so much with me about his life, and I was sharing everything about my life. And in the middle of this party, we're telling each other about everything we wanted to do, everything we hoped to achieve in our lives. And apparently he never shared any of that stuff with anybody. So they were just flabbergasted. And that's pretty much how the whole relationship was in the beginning. It was just like magic. And I kind of giggle because I think every 20-year-old thinks that their relationship is that. But it was really, really powerful. It was more of an instant obsession on both of our parts.
If you say it was magic, it was, it was.
It really was.
Tell me about how the romance progressed.
I did the typical girlfriend thing who doesn't want to ever not be around the boyfriend. And I just started leaving things at his house and not going home for bigger and bigger periods of time. And eventually I was living with him on and off. But due to the nature of his plans for the future, which I was unaware of in the beginning, he was cultivating me. I would live with him, but not technically. So I still had a home, my own apartment that I would go off to a lot. But it was pretty obvious from the very beginning that it wasn't going to be normal. I guess. And
you liked that?
I loved that. I thrived on that.
What was his family like?
Well, Ben, I didn't know anything about his family at all at first. In fact, anytime I asked about his family, he would just sort of shrug it off and just say, oh, they're out east and I don't get along with them. Just stuff like that. Just non-answers, very dismissive. Eventually, a friend of his came up to me one afternoon and asked me if I had any idea who his family was. And
who were they?
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't really even listen to everything that the friend had to say because I didn't feel like it was coming from a good place. I didn't understand why the friend was telling me all about my boyfriend's family if my boyfriend didn't want to tell me about his family. And some of the things were just really hard to comprehend that he was saying. So I just never really asked about his family. And my family was pretty dysfunctional in a typical manner. And so I didn't have any problems with him not wanting to talk about his family.
What did his friend tell you about Aaron's family?
Long and short was that Aaron's family was worth millions of dollars and that they had boats and planes and homes all over the country and that this was wonderful and that the only person that didn't seem to understand how wonderful this was in fact Aaron, and the friend couldn't understand why did he not seem to appreciate what he came from, but he didn't understand why he wouldn't tell me.
And Aaron didn't speak about his status as heir to all this wealth.
Oh, no.
Didn't say a thing. And
no.
Did this turn out to be true? Was the friend telling you, was he painting an accurate picture for you?
The best way to answer that is that I immediately went up to Aaron and I said, I came from a pretty low income family. Yeah. And I just said, I hear you're from millions of dollars. And I was crying. And I said, I just can't be with you. And he was perplexed. He said, what do you mean? And who told you? And I said, well, it's just, I don't see how it could ever work out. How if you're really worth, a couple $1 million, how you would ever really want to be with me. And so I'm too insecure, essentially, and I really need to not do this. And he hugged me and told me, if you think I'm ever letting go of you, you're insane.
Oh.
Turned out his family is worth about $500 million. So even when I thought it was just like 3 and I was saying no, and this came up many times throughout our relationship, he was like, I know you're not in it for the money. You're the only person in my life that I know isn't here because of money. And I'm never letting go of you.
That's great.
It was.
And to be so unbelievably wealthy, they must have been, power brokers too. They must have hung with the glitterati.
Yeah.
Were there powerful people in their circle?
Yeah. I never heard this from him directly, but it was sort of alluded to. And the friend did say this, but because he had been wrong before, I didn't believe it. And years later, I saw family photos of them with like really, really very well-known politicians.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they were really close friends with the family and with folks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Really good friends.
Really good friends. Like they go fishing together and stuff.
It was the impression I got. They were like the photos in the living room weren't show off photos. It was like in their private little den. And it was very, very cozy pictures of his parents and the seniors.
So all we know as far as your geographical location is that this is all taking place in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, right?
Yeah.
His family lived back east,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Did Aaron live a particularly ostentatious lifestyle, or would you just never know walking into his house or hanging around him that he had all this money?
So you wouldn't actually looking at him have any clue. He just looked like at the time your very stereotypical Rasta kid. His clothes weren't particularly like new or fancy. It was just like Carhartt jeans and like
okay.
But
he's ready to work.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that people did pick it up though, because we had copious amounts of toys. Like for people who were pretty broke looking and who had like not much a whole going on, the amount of cars he had, and he had a nice house, and he had a lot of things.
What's an example of something that might, pique somebody's attention? What were one of his toys?
Well, so he had like not like brand new cars, but he was constantly doing things to the cars. And he was very, I call it classy. So it wasn't like there was neon and the car would like bounce up and down, which can be classy too. But it was like, the windows would be tinted and the wheels would be beefed up and the cars would be basically turned into battle wagons. And that's what we called it. And so everything had a purpose, but it was more like if he wanted to go snowboarding, he went snowboarding. And he would say, do you want to go snowboarding? And if you were like, I don't have money for that, he'd say, I'll pay for it. And you'd say, I don't have snowshoes. And he'd say, I'll get you a pair. And off you went snowboarding.
Right. So there were really no limits. He could pretty much do whatever he wanted. Doesn't sound like he was living a particularly high-flying lifestyle, but nothing really stood in his way.
That's right. Exactly.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You said something a few minutes ago that really kind of caught my attention, Leah. You said he was cultivating you.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I think he wanted a life partner, but he also was in the midst of activating goals that he's had for a long time. And then I showed up. He had a master plan for his life, and there wasn't supposed to be a girl. And then I showed up. And so he had to kind of cultivate me to be able to have me around.
Right. So he wants to keep you, but he's got to find some way to integrate you into this master plan.
That's right.
how did he cultivate you?
He spent a lot of time becoming my everything. And by that, I mean literally everything. He was my source of income. He was my source of housing. He was my source of inspiration. Really made it obvious that I could always come to him and talk to him about anything. I'm trying to figure out how to put this, because it sounds really shady, and it really was, but I don't know if he had that much forethought in all of it. But I mean, it's just basically like any abuser will do, frankly. You know, they just sort of manipulate you, and they kind of manipulate situations so that you become convinced that they are your savior, your everything. He was my mom, my dad, my best friend, my teacher, my, everything. And it became less and less okay for me to spend time with other people. And so those are ways that he was cultivating me, like getting me to become less needy socially, like becoming more okay being isolated.
And so as you were becoming more and more dependent on him for everything in your life, did you notice that? Like, were you aware of that? Or were you just like, we're in love and this is a fantastic ride?
I think I told myself at the time that it was just a fantastic ride, and I was just obsessed with him. Like, I thought it was love, but as I've gotten older and have had time away from him, I realized that it was obsession, and that I would never, ever, ever leave this man or do anything intentionally to disappoint him.
And looking back now, do you feel that he loved you?
Yeah, I do.
You do.
I just don't think he knew how.
Leah, what was his master plan?
One day we were riding home from a bar, and he was asking me about my plans for the future. And then he asked me if I had ever grown marijuana before.
Okay. That kind of came out of the blue, I guess.
Yeah, it sure did.
And in fact, his question wasn't, have you ever tried marijuana? It was, have you ever grown marijuana?
That's right.
It's a distinctly different question.
Exactly. It wasn't something that had threw me completely off. And in fact, it excited me because I had always wanted involved, and I had never known anywhere or any way to get involved.
Wow. So was your answer no, but I'd sure love to?
It was immediately like, yes.
Let's
no,
go.
I haven't, but let's. Oh my God, do you want to? Because I want to.
Okay, great.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So what happened next?
Well, so we spent the next 10 years
Oh boy.
doing that.
Growing marijuana, marketing it, selling it,
Yes.
being dealers, distributors.
All of it. Absolutely. Just taking it across the country.
So you had a whole distribution network.
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is the real deal. This is Breaking Bad of marijuana.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to suggest, for the record, it's better than Breaking Bad, because I think that marijuana can mess up people's lives, and I think it has. And I think to suggest it hasn't would be irresponsible. I also think that it has helped a tremendous amount of people. And I would argue with anybody that a person who spends their life growing marijuana is in no way, shape, or form the same as a person who spends their life making methamphetamines, because that doesn't do anybody any good ever.
As Walter White did, the lead character in Breaking Bad.
I know.
Thank you for that clarification. And I was not meaning, just for the record, I was not meaning to equate meth with marijuana, but just to say, hey, you had this whole operation somewhat like Walter White.
That's right. And I'm sorry I get so touchy about that.
Okay, so we'll leave the Breaking Bad comparisons aside.
Yeah.
And focus on this amazing marijuana distribution business you guys are building together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about the places you would export to. Like, how did all that work?
On my end, it would be a surprise. I would be told what I needed to know when I needed to know it. And even if it was just the two of us working, there was nobody else involved. It was still always need to know. I'd wake up and I'd be told to pack my bag, and I'd say, how long? And it, very mechanically, like, pack your bags. How long? 3 days. Okay. Or a week. All right. A month. Okay.
Wow.
And you just pack your bag, and then you just kind of start driving to places. Like, I know that a lot of it went to Jamaica, and a lot of it, oddly enough, was going to Canada.
Huh. Well, there's some irony in it going to Jamaica.
Yeah.
I didn't know they imported weed.
I didn't either. And I had no idea either, but I have known so many people before and since who have done some pretty uncanny things to get the weed that they bought in Jamaica back to Oregon or to wherever. And you're just like, what did you just do?
You're like, that weed just took a round trip.
Yeah, pretty much.
So at the beginning of this business, like, tell me how it started. Did you just grow one plant and then it was 2 and then 4?
At first, it was a matter of working out our genetics. I mean, nowadays, you can just walk into a store and say, this is what I want. You can tell them you want this type of weed and you only want to get this high off of it, and they can give you a plant and know that that's what you're going to get. And you're going to grow that plant, and that's what you're going to have when you're done 3 months later. Back when we were doing things, you didn't have labs you could send your stuff off to ask. And so you spent a lot of time in the very beginning, the first couple of years, working out strains of weed that grow really well, really fast, and that you can sell. And at the same time, you're hanging out at the bars endlessly, making friends, selling small little bags, and giving away. I don't even know how many pounds of weed I've given away in my lifetime, because you make friends that way, and you see people, you hang out at the bar a bunch, you realize that guy is probably the one slanging stuff. So you go to that guy and you give him, something, and you say, I'll be, I'm here all week. And then he goes off and comes back. So you sort of building contacts at the same time that you're building up your strain, because you're only as good as your product in the end of the day.
Okay, so you guys are busy building a distribution network.
Yes.
Was it successful?
Extremely successful.
Next, Leah shares detailed insight into how the whole operation worked. And now, Leah pulls the curtain back. I take it from your answer that you're making a lot of money.
Yeah. Copious amounts of money.
And you were in on all the planning? You saw the books? You saw the money?
No, not really. I had jobs and he had jobs, and rarely, if ever, did we do the other person's job. I look really straight edge and I look disarming, I'm told. I'm able to disarm people. So I would do a lot of the shopping and a lot of the selling. And so like when you're growing, you have about 99 plants per house. That's because the felony started at 100 plants back then.
And when you say per house, you had other people growing?
Oh, yeah. Back then, again, you didn't do warehouses. That would draw so much attention. So you would end up with about 10 to 15 rentals throughout the state at any given time. And you would hire people to come sit in the house and water and, trim and the care of the plant essentially for 3 months. And so I would do a lot of finding those people and helping them and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff. It's the stuff like, okay, when you're looking for a rental, you never want to be within 1,000 feet of a school because that's a felony. You never want to be so close of cop. Well, cops live places, You don't just stay away from the cop shop. Okay, so this place is for rent. You go hang out there for a while and you literally stake the place out for hours in the middle of the night, in the middle of the afternoon, in the middle of the morning, and just see who's hanging out. And it's like, oh, well, there's a cop 2 houses down, so we're not renting this place. And
no kidding.
Yeah, it's quite involved.
He got it all figured out.
Really.
How did he learn all this?
He's brilliant. And at a very young age, he decided he wanted to do this, but way before he was even 18 and could move away from home. And he'd been studying.
Wow.
I know. Sounds crazy.
Studying the trade.
It's true. You know, Times magazines. There's a lot of books from old growers about growing. And so he had a real sense of business as well, growing up in the house that he grew up in. So, you know, everything is like turned into a business, everything. So I think he just put it all together.
As the business was growing, did you ever have any feelings like, I sunk myself into this career, you know, I'm a marijuana queenpin and this is my life. What am I going to do next? Or, you know, did you feel like maybe you'd made a mistake?
No, the opposite. Yeah.
The money was too good.
No, it wasn't about the money, Ben. And it wasn't for him either. It takes money to not spend your entire life distracted trying to chase money.
Right. He already had money.
That's right. I want to answer this by telling you a story that he told me once that I think was incredibly informative, and it really ended up paving the way to where we were. When he was 6 years old, he came home and was asked why he was always so hungry when he would get home. And this kid had, I can't imagine this. I mean, we weren't ever so poor that we didn't have food at home, but he had his own cupboard of all of his own favorite snacks and all of his favorite foods, and so did his sister. And he would come home and just raid his cupboard. And so one night his mom was like, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "Well, the truth is, my little friend at school doesn't ever have a lunch. And I don't know why his parents don't give him a lunch, but he's hungry. So I give him my lunch because I know when I go home, I have my shelf." And the mother said, "Well, that's really sweet, honey, but you can't do that. Scott's family doesn't work hard enough, and that's why Scott's family can't feed Scott. That's not our problem. You need to take care of you." And this is a 6-year-old boy.
Oh.
And that seared so permanently into his memory. He said, at that exact moment, I realized I was sleeping with the enemy.
Oh, gosh.
And that whatever it was that we had, it wasn't normal. So he, at 6 years old, had the wherewithal to realize that his inordinate amount of money was, in fact, inordinate. And it wasn't what everyone else had. And his natural born instinct was to give what he had because he knew he had more than enough. And his mom's instinct was to tell him that that's not true. It's his fault, and we don't share if it's their fault. And so he spent the next 12 years waiting, this is in his own words, waiting to get out of there. And he wanted to have a mission in life that would help people not be like his parents. And for him, for whatever reasons, that was marijuana.
I don't make that connection.
I know, but I think it's because, you know, it's not something that I think everybody should do or everybody needs to try or that he did, but we've both personally had marijuana influence our lives in a positive way. It really helped open our minds in different ways, and we wanted that for other people. And that's what we did have in common. And that was what, you know, where all of this came from. I mean, that was where his whole drive was based around. And I think also, you know, just not doing the like corporate thing that his folks were doing, because that clearly had corrupted them.
Some might argue that being a drug dealer, as it were, is being corrupted.
Right. Exactly.
in Aaron's mind, being a marijuana overlord was being altruistic because he's providing this great product to the masses.
That's right.
Okay.
If they want it, it's there.
Right.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
How did you all interact with the community? The police? Were there any near misses? I can't imagine it would. Man. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So many. Oh my God.
You're running all these houses with
landlords.
99 marijuana plants in each one of them. Yeah. Each building has a landlord.
Oh yeah.
You're busy dodging cops.
Yes.
I imagine your house is filled with marijuana. You probably got, a lot of friends who don't know what's going on. His parents probably don't know, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. So you've got an enormous secret here. You've got this giant operation that nobody knows about.
In the 10 years that we did this, we're the only two that I know of that we worked with that did not end up in jail.
Oh my gosh.
And it's because we kept ourselves extremely isolated. And you were asking earlier about whether it was obvious that he came from wealth or not.
Mm-hmm.
As we were making insane amounts of money and just working all the time, we were really isolated. So we didn't have friends. We didn't talk to our families at all. He didn't get along with his family very much. I mean, even when he was in his house growing up, his mom and stepdad would travel the world and be gone for over 6 months out of the year on average. And so he wasn't really ever family-oriented person. So we would just fall off of the cliff. And I had many, many friends who just disappeared because I basically disappeared. There was so many near misses.
Tell me about some.
It was usually landlords. The landlord would suddenly end up at the house because people would just get a funny feeling. And so then they just suddenly end up giving you a 24-hour notice telling you that the next day they needed to do a walkthrough for some random reason. And so, you're sitting in this house and the landlord's outside and there's 100 plants in the basement and you're trying to be absolutely silent so that they don't know you're there. And you're already thinking about your legal defense. So I'm sitting there thinking about how, okay, if she just walks in right now, there's no 24-hour notice. So I will be able to get off because anything they find, it won't have been found legally. One time I was sitting at my house and this one was pretty bad. And there's just this really rapturous banging at the door, and I go, and it's the middle of the afternoon, and I go running and I look through people and I see an officer and I'm just like, oh crap.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was just downstairs messing with the plants. So I smell like weed. The house smells like weed. I have all of these air filters, all this filtration systems, all these lots of humming going on in my basement. So I'm running around, turning everything off, throwing a robe on, roughing up my hair, spraying myself down with perfume, answering the door, acting like I just got woken up and I was just up all night. The officer had gotten some complaints about a dog is what he said. And he wanted to know if I had a dog that was getting out, and I didn't have a dog.
Okay.
I ended up getting a hold of Aaron within about, I'd say, 8 hours of that encounter. We were out of there before the daylight.
Right.
So that we weren't there to find out. That was always the thing. You would get a 24-hour notice telling you they needed to have a banker go through, or a plumber or an electrician. And you're like, but I haven't complained about, okay. That's your 24-hour notice to get out of there, or you're going to prison.
Were you worried that they might be staking the house out to watch you, taking your 99 plants out of the house?
I would be, but, you're just in a constant state of vigilance. You are never, ever actually relaxed. You're never calm. You're constantly living with the idea that at any minute, officers of whatever sort could come flying through whatever door, and just know that you need to get down to the ground as fast as you can so that they don't hurt you. And you just have little plans for everything, every single thing. And there is nothing that's overt or obvious. The only thing that's overt or obvious is that we're kind of strange because we don't have a bunch of people over and we're not always out in the front yard hanging out. And we are nice enough, but we're quiet and to ourselves. And one of the first things we do is put up over the curtains of the house. We will put up black plastic so that it blocks out any light. And sometimes we'll put in little lights in between the blackout and the curtains so that that would be on a timer. So people would think that the lights were coming on in the living room.
Clever.
Yeah. But that way they didn't realize we were basically doing everything all night long. And during the day, the place was quiet.
And how was it living with that stress, worrying that you were going to be found out all the time? Was it stressful or was it an adrenaline rush?
I think it's an adrenaline rush and you get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of liked it.
Oh, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I really liked the sense of being a rebel. I had a real self-righteous line going on through my head about how I was helping the world and helping people, and that it took people like myself to have the nerve and the tenacity to risk, decades in prison. I think it makes you feel like you're not, this sounds so weird, but it made me feel less a failure for not fitting in with society. Because with my group of people, if people knew what I was doing, I would have been hailed as a queen. Not really, but that's what you tell yourself. You think you're just really hot shit. It really feeds it. And the fact that it's not easy, the fact that you could go to prison, it makes you feel like a martyr, which is really kind of too bad because I still believe in the cause of marijuana, but I don't really, I'm definitely older now. And so I have a much broader concept of things than I did. I thought I was saving the world, Ben.
Well, maybe you did for some people.
I might have.
Yeah. But I'm curious, these houses that you rented, did you furnish them?
No.
No, they were just empty. So,
oh, yeah.
If a landlord did a walkthrough, they would be like, they'd be tipped off again that something was going on.
Oh, no. So okay, if you have a landlord doing a walkthrough, they're walking through an empty house, period, full stop. Or they're walking through with a police officer and you're in handcuffs. So when, we as a group had to pull out of a place, there was no explanation to the landlord. It was just like, okay, we're out. And, here's your month and you keep your last month's rent. You're fine. And you don't ask for the deposit back. And so they just sort of shrug it off and go, I think she was up to something weird, but I don't know what.
Right.
Huh. Yeah.
What did you tell his parents you were doing? What did you think you guys were up to?
Oh, he was a total rebel without a cause. So he basically took off of the Northwest and said, if I talk to you again, you'll be lucky. And they were like, okay. And that was okay for a little bit. But eventually his mom, who was friends with the state police where we lived, would send them to where he was living. We'd be sitting there and cops would be showing up asking us to call his mom. And because he just would go for so long without calling.
Cops would show up asking him to call his mom? That sounds like a weird task for a policeman.
Yeah. So his parents were really good friends with everybody. And they were really good friends with the head of the state police.
Gosh.
And so then, some officer would show up. And that happened about 4 times. And every time the officer would just look like, this is absolutely not what I'm getting paid to do. And they were always insulted and we were always freaked out. And it was always just, so then eventually he got a burner phone and that was just for his mom. And he would kind of feed her whatever he needed to keep her back. They had multiple jets and the like. So she would just give you notice and then suddenly show up. So you kind of had to always be ready.
Were they giving him money?
No, he had a trust fund. And so I don't know if money had been going in there until how long, but he gave all that money away because, well, I mean, for one, it helped us launder all the money we were making. When we were buying boats and campers and all this stuff, we could show anybody, well, yeah, look, look at all the hundreds of thousands of dollars coming out of this fund that he's got. Meanwhile, what we were actually doing is giving all of that money away to friends and or people that we had encountered that were really good people that just weren't born with a silver spoon.
You're just giving money away.
And cars and stuff. Yeah, like it was, yeah. A really good coworker who became a good friend wanted to start a landscaping business. But he didn't have the money to do that. And, he's like a drug dealer. So it's like you go into the bank and be like, no, I'm really successful. Trust me, I have lots of money. Just give me a loan. They don't do it. So Aaron would give $10,000 quote unquote loans to people and say, okay, here's a truck. I have an extra pickup and here's 10 grand. Go buy all the stuff. And then the person would go off and start their own landscaping business. And in the drug business, at the level that we were at, there's a lot of people who want involved. So when you show up and suddenly you say, okay, I can put you in a house. I'm going to put you in this house. I'm going to sit you in there. You're going to be my duck. And you're going to take care of everything. And at the end of the day, I'll give you 10 grand. So in 3 months, I'll give you 10 grand.
Right.
People will do a lot for that. Just that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in our position would manipulate and use that against the underlings. Right. I mean, sometimes they were way older than I was, but the people who wanted in, there was a lot of people around that were cutthroat. They'd say, okay, I'll put you in this house and I'm going to give you 10 grand at the end of 3 months. But then at the end of 3 months, they basically just kick you out. And what are you going to do? Because they're gone. So you're not going to call the cops on them. All you're doing is telling on yourself and burning yourself. With Aaron, it was just never about the money. It was really about this purpose of helping, as silly as I guess it sounds, like helping the world in whatever way and doing it in a way that isn't involving corporate America and doing it in a way that was showing some of these younger people that you can be a marijuana grower and you don't have to be some kind of a jackass gangster who's just like using everybody and manipulating everyone. And it's all about, what can you get out of it? Because if you're doing it right, you should your cup should be overflowing.
Yeah. So he fancied himself a benevolent marijuana dealer.
Yeah.
And maybe he was.
Yeah, I guess I did too.
Right. Yeah. I guess he both did. Earlier, Leah, you said that it all came crashing down at some point. Can we go to that day?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me what happened. Hold on, because something unexpected is about to happen, and it will be the most significant challenge to Leah's instincts thus far. Leah and Aaron's thriving marijuana operation crumbles in spectacular fashion. How it happens, and the intense aftermath in this final chapter of Leah's story.
So at the end, we were cleaners, is what I would call it. We really wanted to start a family and kind of settle down a little bit, and things at the level that we were at weren't going to happen. So we decided to move to a new town. We closed down all of our houses. And then what we were doing is going into people's houses where they weren't getting what they should be getting out of the house every 3 months. You should be getting so much money, so many pounds, so much money out of each house. So we would just go in and take care of all of that for you. We'd lock you out, take over for 3 months, get that back up to par so that you're making a minimum of $30,000 out of it. We would guarantee you will make $30,000 at least.
In a month?
Or in 3 months, 3 months. We just want $10,000 at the end. And so that way we were still making a ton of money. We were a little less involved and a little more able to have some flexibility. So we were leaving one such house and we had just locked the person out. We just took over this house for him. And we were going over to another house about 3 hours away. And I was in a separate vehicle from him. And when I got about an hour away from the town that we were headed to, I came across an accident. And apparently he had been involved in a high-speed chase.
Oh my God.
With the police for speeding. And then they just kept chasing him. The long story short is they ended up accidentally causing his death.
What happened?
Well, the officer that was chasing Aaron was too close. And so Aaron was unable to slow down, because if he did at the speed that they were going, which was over 100 miles an hour, if he just hit his brakes or even took his foot off the gas, he was going to get hit, and he knew it. And he was in a vehicle that would likely mean his death if he were hit by the cop.
Okay.
In the vehicle he was in. That's in fact what ended up happening. He didn't make a turn, and he was killed in an accident.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you just happened upon the accident?
Yeah, because we were actually heading over to another grow to water the plants there because we knew they needed it. And it was our personal, so there wasn't somebody there. And we were actually buying a house for a friend who couldn't get a mortgage because of, not having a normal job. And so we were buying her a duplex the next morning, and we needed to get some nice clothes from the house that we were going to. We had some for the real estate agent the next morning. And instead, he was involved in the accident.
Oh my God. And you recognized his vehicle?
Yeah.
How did you know it was him?
I knew, Ben. This is where I really sound crazy, and that's okay. I was about an hour and a half, so I was literally in the middle of the two places, where we were going and where we were. I was panicking, and I had no reason to be panicking, but I was panicking. He was in a much faster vehicle. He got so far and then suddenly stopped, and I came up to him and he said, "Okay, I forgot something," which was unbelievable because he'd never forgotten anything ever. I've never, anyway, ever. And I was like, whoa. And he goes, "I know." And he said, "Well, okay, do you think you've got it from here?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, I'll see you on the other side."
What did he forget?
He forgot to lock the door, which is, I cannot even explain to you how unbelievable that is. Just unbelievable. So then he passes me, and the minute he passed me, because, I had taken off, and he came and got behind me and came to get in front of me. As soon as I saw him, for some reason, I just started panicking. I panicked. I couldn't tell you why. I just knew that it was not okay, and I needed to catch up to him. So I started racing off, realized halfway point that I needed gas, which I was also angry about. So I stopped. And then all of a sudden, complete peace. Just whatever manic feelings I was filled with just suddenly were gone. And I just started sobbing. And I have no idea how to tell you this, but I just knew. And I knew something had happened to him, and I knew that he was dead. And I then panicked again, and I drove super fast down the road to where the next little town is down there, where we have some friends, and we were supposed to, initially in our original plan, we were going to kind of meet up there, hang out with our friend for a minute. So when I got into that little town and I had this weird panicky feeling, and I stopped where we were supposed to meet and he wasn't there, I just looked at our mutual friend, coworker, and I just said, "I got to go. Something's wrong." And I got back in my truck and I passed a sign that said accident ahead. And I thought, no way. No. And then I thought, okay, well, it can't be him. And next time I come across one of these signs, they have the flares underneath. The flare will be really full. And that's how I know it won't be Aaron, because Aaron, it would have been like an hour ago that he would have come through here and the flares would be dead. So that's this weird rationalization I went through, and I passed the next sign, and sure enough, right as I did it, there was a Department of Transportation guy there relighting a new flare. And I came around the corner, and then there was just a line of traffic, and I just knew. I fully knew. And then we went around at this other turn, when they finally were letting traffic through about an hour later, and I saw a piece of his vehicle in the road, and then it gets that's probably where I should leave it.
Okay.
It was pretty bad.
Must have been horrible for you.
Incomprehensible.
You just felt your whole world falling apart.
Literally my entire world. And it's not like I worked at McDonald's. It's not like, oh crap, I lost my job flopping Whoppers. I'll just go get a job at, Denny's.
Right.
My entire self-awareness, who I am as a human being, what my goal is on this planet, why I was put here, wasn't for him, but it was for the things that we were doing. And how do I do that now? It's all gone.
Didn't occur to you for a moment that you could somehow pick up the pieces and do it on your own?
No.
It was a partnership.
Yeah. He was the
mastermind.
Yeah. And I was the helper, I was the good student.
Right. The understudy.
Yes, for sure.
So Leah, what went through your mind? What did you decide you had to do?
I had to go to work. I ended up at the side of the road, the next pull off. The officer was telling me to keep going, and I said, that's my husband. And so he said, okay, I'll meet you at the next pull out. So I went there, and all I'm thinking at that point is that I need to get back to him and see if it's actually him, because at this point they've got tarps and stuff down. And as soon as the officer showed up, he just started grilling me. He wanted to know why Aaron had a loaded weapon.
Oops.
Why did he have an officer's weapon? Where were you going? What were you doing? When we first started asking questions, I was answering them, basics like, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you started asking that, all I could hear in my head was, I'm so sorry, but you've got to go to work now. And I just went to work.
You got to clean up.
Yeah, 10 years of living in high stress kind of prepared me for it. I was a champion.
Wow, so you've got to deconstruct this whole world and fast, because quickly. You can see the walls are going to come in around you.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of time.
And on top of all of this, I've got to let a series of people know that this just happened, that the cops are suspicious. They were one of the people that wanted to know how this young man had such nice stuff. The vehicle he was in when he died was a really, really expensive vehicle. Really, really expensive.
Right.
And so they were just like, how does he have all these things? And what complicated that was that I didn't have numbers. I didn't have ways to get a hold of these people. And not only are we worried about cops, but we're always worried about more nefarious drug dealers than us that will come through. They'll find out about a person in their grow. And if there's a girl or a girlfriend, they figure you'll just roll and you'll start telling them where everybody else's everything is. We have plans for everything. Even though that also means that like I don't know everything, because then I can't tell you. If you're pulling my fingernails off, I still can't tell you the phone number to so-and-so because I don't know it. So immediately after, I had 2 friends come pick me up, and they took me to a 3rd friend's house. And these were people that I worked with, but were a little more friends than, they were pretty low grade. Like, you know, you sell them an ounce or something every now and again. So it was really, you know, they were coworkers in a way, but they were friends as well. So they came and picked me up, and they're sitting there in this kitchen chatting amongst themselves with me sitting at the table about how devastated I'm going to be, how they're going to take turns watching over me while I, you know, lose my mind sleeping that night. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I have 2 houses I have to deconstruct, and I don't know if the cops are there now or not.
Right.
And so eventually I look up at them and I say, here's the deal, guys. I need to go do this. And you can help me, but know that if you have any priors and we get rolled, you're going to stay in jail. And I don't have any priors, and I'm going to get out of jail. So I wouldn't come if you've been in trouble before. And even though 2 of them had, they were like, you know, they went with me that night and we tore down 2 houses.
How do you dispose of the plants?
So at this particular house, we'd been there for a long time. So we had a really huge garden outside, a really massive compost. And so I just disposed of all of the plant material, not the actual plants, but like the root balls and the dirt there. And then we took the plants and put them in bins and sneaky pooed that off into the forest and dropped them off into the forest.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been devastating calling his mother.
Oh, yeah.
What did she say when you told her that her son Aaron had died?
I actually remember pulling the phone away from my head because I was so sure there would be some sort of loud noise. But she just sounded like I just told her sheets were ready to put on her bed. She was like, oh, well, how did that happen? And I said, I don't really know yet, but it looks like he was speeding and the cops, I don't know. I really can't tell you. But it was really disturbingly calm. She didn't really seem to have a reaction. She just wanted to know details. I'm not judging her. She never cried. In fact, I never ever saw her cry about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't close. We know that.
Yeah.
But still, it's her son.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because this is we're talking about drugs. One of the things I always thought was that if you had a lot of money, somehow you didn't fall victim to like the pharmaceutical situation in this country. And by that, I mean they can convince you, you have anxiety and sell you a pill to take for that. They will be happy to do it. And by they, I mean certain doctors and certain, pharmaceutical companies. But I thought that once you made so much money, like somehow you weren't like of interest to them. But it's really the opposite. You become of much more interest because you have much more money for each pill. So you get some really awesome drugs if you're into that kind of thing, I think. Because I would see her start to have human emotions that you would, expect. I hate saying that because I don't need her to do anything. I can't even imagine losing my son. But you would see when it would just really start to hit her. She would take a pill and swig it down with her gin. And then seriously, 2 minutes later, she was smiling and happy and like the life of the party. And you would think it was a party, not a funeral. And I had a couple other friends who saw that too. And so she just didn't have any kind of real reaction. It was all financial for her. That's all it ever was.
Gosh. So you managed to get rid of all the evidence and escape the prying eyes of the law and never have a legal reckoning for this 10-year marijuana spree?
That's right. Yeah. I there was a lot of stashing a lot of equipment, lights and ballasts and air filter systems. And I mean, there's just so much equipment involved and garages full. And so I would get these phone calls from his family telling me that they were coming out to do, this, that, the other thing after he died, like inventory related to his belongings. And so I'd be given like a 2-day notice. They'd call me, at 5:00 on Thursday night and say, okay, well, we can have the jet on Saturday. So, because they are smart. And so in order to have a fleet of jets, they rent them out. It's business. Even though you have a fleet of Lear jets, you still have to schedule it. So I'd usually get like a 24-hour notice that they were coming out.
You're almost getting 24-hour notices.
Yeah, it's true, Ben.
Lucky.
It's true.
Whether it's his family or the landlord.
It's true.
Yeah. So they came out and, I don't know, you've got all this equipment stashed. I mean, how do you dispose of all that? What happened to all of it? And what happened when the family came and nosed around?
God. So we had just moved to this new town and I didn't know anybody. And like almost immediately after that, I had made like 2 really good friends. And I was really excited because for the first time I could actually make some friends and in a long time. I would be told that the family was going to be here in 2 days. And so or whatever they would tell me. And I never trusted it. I never believed it. If they told me Saturday, I assumed it meant, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And so I would just immediately go into work mode and get all of the grow equipment over to one of the 2 friends' houses. And then usually have to get it back out of their house as soon as the people did come through my house because they had roommates or whatever. Like, what the hell is that going on in our garage right now? Like, are we about to grow like 500 pounds of weed or something? And they'd be like, we could if we wanted to. I decided to try and stay in the business for a little while directly afterward. I didn't know how to go from that life to a quote unquote straight, narrow life. It was kind of depressing and everything. So I quickly got reconnected with the same coworkers and I'm kind of proud because as the only female that's ever been let into that huge circle at that level. I mean, the girls were allowed, but they were girlfriends and they were helpers. It just kept coming down to the same thing. Like, you work with 2 guys and they're great. And then you work with the 3rd guy and he rips you off, but it hurts because it's not, when they rip you off, Ben, it's not, a couple $100. Like you're suddenly out $30,000, and you've just risked how many years in prison, but I'm not willing to pull your fingernails off. I'm not willing to hurt you when you don't pay me. So I eventually got out.
How'd you wind down operations? Was it hard or were you able to just like give the keys to Bruno and, move to the next town?
No, I was definitely very much an independent worker at that point.
Yeah.
So there were 2 things. One, I had all this equipment, so much stuff. To get rid of it would be really hard because it was still illegal up in the Northwest. So you couldn't just like put an ad in Craigslist for all your crap and then hope that that's going to work out. And if you ever did decide to grow again, you've just sort of ratted yourself out, So I went and got my medical marijuana grow card. Then I involved one of the guys from the circle that I know has a big mouth.
Okay.
That
you're being strategic.
Yeah, extremely.
Uh-huh.
He can't keep a secret. So I tell him, hey, I need your help. I need you to keep a secret. So what I do is I get my card. I get him in there to help me, quote unquote, set up, which was the first sign of weakness that I wouldn't know how to set up the grow room myself. So I tried to make it look like I was just fronting all this time, that I knew what was up, that really I was just the girlfriend helper. And so I just suddenly tried to downplay. But they're pretty smart dudes. And they were like, you were just knew all this information. So how do you suddenly not know any of it? So I got my grow card. And then I did absolutely everything wrong to those plants that you could do wrong, so that they were just the most depressing example of, I mean, it's a weed. The reason they call it a weed is because if you just put it in the grass and leave it alone, it'll grow and be this big, beautiful plant. And I managed to make this the most snaggle bush thing that ever happened. It was orange. It was hilarious. Anyways. And then I called the friend back over and said, I need to keep a secret. Something went wrong. And he came in there and he was just absolutely flabbergasted. And I remember his jaw was literally dropped. And he was looking at these 6 sad little plants with like maybe an eighth of weed on them. Whereas typically you should never walk away with less than an ounce ever off of a plant. Ever. And so I'm like, maybe have an ounce here. And he was just like, oh my God. And I was like, don't tell anybody. And I started crying. Like, don't tell the guys. Please don't, just whatever you do. And I swear to God, right after that, Ben, I could not get anybody on the phone. I could not get them to answer the door. I could not get them to, and so it worked.
Wow. Command performance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really proud of it. And then I left the state. Is what I did.
Wow. What an interesting way to extricate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever.
It's called the power of skunk.
Oh, okay.
This is something my uncle taught me a long time ago. He said, the skunk is so friendly and has really so little defense with his tiny little claws and his tiny little teeth for the things that want to eat it. That's why he stinks, because then nothing wants to try and catch it.
Right.
So that's all I did was I just called on the power of skunk and I stank real bad so that all those guys who really, really pride themselves in really amazing marijuana growing saw my sad little attempt and they didn't want anything to do with me because I stank too bad.
What an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
At the height, can you tell me how many people were working for you and how much money was rolling in?
Okay, well, on average, there's about 5 people. I think at the height there was about 10, but that's just stupid and dangerous. You're bringing in a minimum of $30,000 per house every 3 months, and you have about 10 houses.
$100,000 a month?
Oh, easy, yeah.
Easy, maybe more.
Yeah, probably.
Wow, that's some coin.
Gave it all away. So as fast as we made it.
And so when you walked away, closed the door on this life, did you manage to take a big stash of cash with you?
So that was actually one of the most ironic parts of all of this is the day before he died, he comes up to me and he tells me that we've done it. I said, what do we do? And he goes, we have no money. We have no money. And I was right. I said, because I did not grow up rich. So that does not sound good to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like in the middle of a panic. And he's like, no, everything's set. Like, so in other words, we had already reinvested all of our money into the next cycles. But other than that, all of our free cash had been given away. You would have thought he won $1 trillion. He was like crying. He was picking me up and twirling me around in circles. And I didn't understand. And it took me actually a while after he passed away to realize like it was the first time in his life he'd ever been broke. For the first time in his life, he actually achieved like, I don't have more than everyone else. I actually have less and this is great.
That was freeing for him.
It was. But now we had tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. And I spent the next couple of years selling tons of stuff. And I definitely had tons and tons of money. So I didn't have to work for a while, which was a great thing, a huge blessing. We didn't have any kids, so I didn't have to worry about, that stuff. And I was able to actually start like reconnecting with my family.
And so he died in 2008, right? So what's your life like been since then? What are you doing now, Leah?
Well, I kind of basically live the exact opposite now.
Yeah.
In some ways, I live off grid. I live in the Southwest. I own my beautiful cordwood house.
Are you off grid to, be out of the eyes of the law, or is it just a lifestyle choice?
No, it's a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyways,
okay.
It's just I think it's a holdout. It's it's like a holdover from that time. It's like a way of still being removed from normal society. Like, see, I'm not like everyone else. I did make a considerable amount of money. I also spent a lot of time working on art, fine art. And so at this point, I'm able to make a living. And I have a husband that I met 3 years after Aaron died. And in a lot of ways he couldn't be any more opposite of the person than Aaron was. He's really like straightforward. There's not a whole lot of sneaky poo going on. He's got a great relationship with his family. They're like average. It's great. It's great.
Wow. And what does he think about all this?
Well, he, I think he thinks it's pretty fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty fantastic story.
Yeah, that's a word for it.
Yeah. And I think he thinks it's kind of exciting, frankly, because, he's not like some super boring, like office job dude by any means, but, he's pretty comfortable and everything's always been pretty like straight and narrow. So I think for him, it's kind of entertaining to think that his wife has had such a crazy past.
I can imagine.
But I don't know if he believed me at first. But when he heard the story repeated the same, he's like, wow.
So Leah, I have just one question left about this period in your life. You mentioned that when Aaron died, that he had a gun on him. Did you ever witness violence?
No. About that, I'd say I saw things get to the place verbally where you knew it wasn't going to end up good. Or I would see people do things. Someone in a house one time took off, left the state, tried to take about 10 grand and about a half a pound. Aaron found them. We both went. I don't know how. I think the reason he took me, that was really early on, was to scare me, to make me realize like he had powers that I didn't understand. We found that person and I was then put in a hotel room for about 24 hours. And then, we went home. I know that person is still alive. I know that they are. So I know it wasn't like that necessarily, but I know that I wouldn't want to be that person.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, there was some violence around you, but you were shielded from it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I can't testify if I don't know.
There you go. Everybody was in their own silos.
That's right. And you stay in your lane.
Right.
You do not, I don't care if you're his wife. You veer out of your lane and you become a threat to not just him, but to everyone and everything.
Wow. What an education. What an experience. That is quite Quite a story you got there, Leah.
Thanks, Ben.
Holy cow.
It's funny. And I want to thank you for this opportunity. I really think that the best part about this show, as someone who's sharing my story, but as someone who's been listening, is just knowing that while I'm sitting there swallowing my secret, I'm not alone. Like, there's lots of us swallowing some pretty amazing secrets.
It's pretty much what the show is about, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this show and for telling us this amazing story.
Thanks, Ben.
Leah survived her roller coaster ride as a drug queenpin relatively unscathed, using the power of skunk. She's off the grid somewhere in the southwest United States, living her quiet existence, resurfacing just long enough to share her secret with the world.
But there's more.
They thought that we were funding hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh my gosh, don't say that, even if it's not true.
Sarah tells Ben about her dealings with the FBI after Aaron's death. Join me for this eye-popping epilogue.
That's Susie Lark, host of The Secret Room Unlocked, your backstage pass to The Secret Room, available to those special fans who support their favorite indie podcast that could. All the details are at patreon.com/secretroom. And Leah sent pictures.
One of them is him in the kayak, one of our toys.
There's also a picture of Leah and the house she pulled herself together in so quickly when the police came calling. Find them now on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle, @SecretRoomPod. And this episode marks Lefty Marcucci's final episode with us. Where are you going to next, Lefty?
If you must know, I'm going to another podcast.
Wow, seems like kind of a poor decision to make.
Come on, we all have to chart our own path, Ben.
Watch out for that door.
No, you worry about yourself.
Wow. We wish you the best, Lefty. Knock 'em dead in your new corner of the Podverse. Make us proud. Thanks also to Susie Lark, Alessandro